Your mind is building your life right now. Every assumption you hold, every mental image you sustain, every inner conversation you repeat is constructing the world you'll walk into tomorrow. And that ancient verse you've heard 100 times, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind," was never a suggestion. By the end of this, you'll understand it as the most precise instruction ever written for reshaping your material reality from the inside out. Romans 12, verse 2. Most people hear it in church and file it under "think positive thoughts." They treat it like a gentle encouragement to have a better attitude. But read it again, with fresh eyes. "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." The word transformed there comes from the Greek metamorphoo, the same root that gives us metamorphosis, a caterpillar dissolving its entire structure to become something with wings. Paul chose a word that means complete structural change, a total reconstitution of form, and he tied that change directly to one mechanism, the mind. He said the mind is the site of transformation, the body follows, the circumstances follow, the material world follows. Everything out there reorganizes itself around what happens in here. That sequence matters. The renewal comes first. The transformation comes second. You change the inner pattern, and the outer pattern has to shift to match. Neville Goddard spent decades teaching this exact principle. He called it living in the end, occupying the mental state of your wish fulfilled so completely that your consciousness accepts it as present fact. And he drew heavily from this verse because he recognized something most theologians missed. Paul was giving an operational instruction, a method: renew your mind and you will be transformed. Cause and effect, laid out in a single sentence. So what does renewing the mind actually look like in practice? It starts with catching yourself in the act of building the wrong world. You wake up in the morning and immediately your inner voice starts narrating. It tells you what's possible and what's beyond reach. It reminds you of what happened yesterday and assumes tomorrow will follow the same script. That narration is your mind's current pattern, the old mind, the unrenewed mind, and every moment you leave it running unchecked, you're voting for more of the same. Renewal means interrupting that pattern deliberately. You choose a different inner conversation. You construct a scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled, and you dwell in that scene with feeling. The feeling is the key. Cold visualization does very little. When you can generate the emotion of relief, of gratitude, of satisfaction, that your wish is done, you've entered the state Paul described. You've renewed your mind. You've shifted the inner template. This is where most people quit. They try it once, maybe twice, feel nothing change in the outer world and conclude it doesn't work. But think about how long you've been running the old pattern. Years, decades. Your current assumptions about money, about love, about what you deserve, those grooves are deep. You wore them in through thousands of repetitions. A single night of imagining won't override that momentum. The renewal Paul described requires what Neville called persistence in assumption. You sustain the new state even when every piece of evidence around you screams that nothing has changed. That tension between what you're assuming and what you're seeing is the hardest part of this practice. Your senses are loud. Your bank account is loud. The absence of what you want is loud. And your old mind uses all of that noise to pull you back into the familiar pattern. Renewal means holding your ground in the unseen while the seen contradicts you. It means choosing the reality of your imagination over the testimony of your circumstances. The verse says, "Be not conformed to this world." That's the other half of the instruction, and it's just as operational as the first. Conforming to this world means letting the outer arrangement dictate your inner state. Something goes wrong, and you feel defeated. Someone rejects you, and you feel unworthy. The bills stack up, and you feel poor. That's conformity. Your inner world is taking its orders from the outer one. Paul said, "Stop, reverse the flow. Let your renewed mind give the orders." This reversal feels unnatural at first because you've spent your whole life doing it backwards. You've been waiting for conditions to improve so you could feel better, waiting for the relationship so you could feel loved, waiting for the promotion so you could feel successful. The instruction in Romans flips that entirely. Feel it first. Assume it first. Let the inner state lead and watch the outer world rearrange itself to match. Goddard often pointed to another verse to reinforce this. "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." The heart there refers to the subconscious. the deep feeling nature where assumptions take root and become conviction. Your conscious mind can entertain a new idea all day long, but until that idea sinks into the heart, into the subconscious feeling of its truth, the outer world won't budge. The mind you're renewing includes both levels. You think the new thought consciously, you feel it repeatedly, and eventually it drops into the subconscious, where it becomes your dominant assumption. That's when the metamorphosis begins. The people who struggle most with this practice are the ones who monitor the outside for proof. They imagine their desire at night, then spend the entire next day looking for signs that it's working. That looking is doubt wearing a hopeful mask. Every time you check, you're really asking, has it happened yet? And that question carries the assumption that it hasn't. You've just renewed your mind back to the old pattern. The discipline is to assume it's done and let the how and when take care of themselves. Your only job is the state. There's a counter-argument worth addressing here, and it comes from within the practice itself. Some people say, if I'm supposed to feel it as done, but I genuinely feel lack, am I just lying to myself? The answer lives in the distinction between suppression and selection. You're not pretending your current feelings don't exist. You're choosing which state to feed. Every day you have dozens of emotional states moving through you. The old mind gravitates toward the fearful ones, the doubtful ones, the scarcity-based ones, because those feel familiar. Renewal means deliberately selecting the state that aligns with your fulfilled desire and giving it your attention, your energy, your time. You're not lying, you're choosing. And the state you choose most consistently becomes the lens through which your entire reality is filtered. Consider what this means about the nature of prayer. Most people pray from a state of wanting. They ask God, the universe, consciousness, whatever name fits, to give them something they don't have. But if the mind is the instrument of transformation, then prayer done from a state of lack can only reinforce lack. Neville taught a different approach. Prayer is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You enter the state as if it's already done, you give thanks for it, and you release it. That's the renewed mind in action. That's Romans 12:2, practiced as a living technology. The word Paul used for mind in that verse, nous, refers to the organ of perception, the faculty through which you interpret reality. When he says renew your mind, he's saying change the lens, change how you perceive, and you change what you perceive. Two people can walk through the same city on the same day. One sees opportunity everywhere, the other sees only obstacles. Same city. The difference is the nous, the interpretive filter each person carries. Your assumptions are that filter. They decide what you notice, what you attract, what you allow into your experience. So the practice becomes daily. Morning and night, you choose your state. You construct a brief mental scene, something simple that implies your wish is fulfilled. Maybe it's a friend congratulating you. Maybe it's checking your bank balance and seeing a number that makes you exhale with relief. Maybe it's the feeling of waking up next to someone you love. You loop that scene until you feel it, until your body responds to it, until the boundary between imagined and real starts to blur. That blurring is the renewal happening in real time. And here's the part that demands patience. The bridge of incidents, the chain of events that connects your current reality to your fulfilled assumption, often looks like chaos. Things might fall apart before they reorganize. A job might end. A relationship might shift. Your circumstances might get worse before they get better, because the old structure has to dissolve before the new one can emerge. Remember the word, metamorphoo. The caterpillar doesn't just sprout wings, it liquefies first. If your world seems to be dissolving, check your inner state. If you're still holding the assumption of the wish fulfilled, you're in the cocoon. The dissolution is part of the process. Paul embedded an entire technology of consciousness into 23 words, a method for changing your material experience by changing the pattern of your mind. The sequence is precise. Stop conforming. Stop letting the outer world write your inner script. Renew your mind. Choose and sustain the assumption of your desire fulfilled. Be transformed. Let the metamorphosis unfold in its own time, through its own bridge of incidents, in ways you could never have planned. Your inner conversation right now is building tomorrow's world. Every assumption you hold is a blueprint being handed to a builder who takes everything literally. The question was never whether this works. The question is what you've been building without realizing it, and whether you're ready to hand over a different set of plans.